Everyone, thank you so much for investing your time with us this evening. For those of you that don't know me, I am Rita Heater. I'm a volunteer with Simply Living, and it has been such a pleasure for me this summer to work with and to really get to know our students. They give me hope and inspiration for the future. I do want to let you know, you saw the screen, that the meeting is being recorded and it will be placed on the Simply Living YouTube channel. If you do not want to be in the recording, feel free to turn off your camera and mute yourself. So you know what to expect. The interns and fellow will introduce themselves, telling you a little bit about their background and what they've been working on this summer. After each student presents, we will have a few minutes for your burning questions, and you can submit them verbally, or you can submit them in the chat, or if you want to email them, we will put their email addresses. And if you want to go ahead and do that, everyone, in the chat, so they can email you if they want to do that. Then we will go to the next student, and at the very end, the group will take questions as a whole, and we may even have some questions for you. So if that sounds good, we will get started. We will start with Abby, who's going to talk about Solarize. She'll be our first presenter tonight. So it's all yours, Abby.
Cool. Thank you, Rita. 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see this and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, welcome everyone. Before I start, I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself. My name is Abby Esch. I'm going to be a fourth year at Ohio State. I'm studying environmental policy. I'm really passionate about sustainability and just about nature in general. That's kind of the reason that I sought out Simply Living and wanted to work about, has been mainly what I've been working on, but just that was created by Solar United Neighbors, also called SUN, which is a national organization, Sustainable Columbus, a city program, us, Simply Living, and Impact. What is a solar co-op? A solar co-op is a group of property owners who use their combined buying power to save money going solar. They're completely member driven and they are free to join. And I'm going to show this video real quick. If the sound doesn't work, let me know.
What if you could get all the information you need to go solar from a nonprofit with your best interest in mind? You can. By joining our solar co-op, you'll get solar installed alongside your neighbors with expert help from Solar United Neighbors and at a discounted group rate. When a solar co-op launches in your area, you can attend a free information session to learn all about solar energy, how it works, options for financing, and what it's like to go solar in the co-op. Or if you prefer to learn on your own, check out the resources on our website. They're free too. When the co-op has around 30 members, SUN solicits proposals from solar installers in your area. We confirm they have proper licensing, good references, and quality offerings for equipment and warranties. A committee of co-op members then chooses a single company to install everyone's systems. You'll work directly with the installer to go solar with our support throughout the entire process. The installer will schedule a site visit with you and then draw up a customized proposal based on the co-op's group rate. Once you sign the contract with the installer, they'll work with you to schedule your installation. They'll also handle the permitting and interconnection requirement. Your new solar panels will make getting your electric bill each month a lot more fun. Sounds pretty good, right? So how do you join? The solar co-op is free and to anyone who wants to go solar in the designated co-op area. You can find those details on the co-op website. Joining the co-op doesn't commit you to going solar. Take the first step toward having the sun pay your electricity bills. Sign up for the co-op today.
So that was just a really quick overview. I'll go into some more details though, because that went really fast.
What if you could get all the
All right, so it was mentioned in the video, but these are just a few benefits to joining the solar co-op. So if you are interested in your house, then joining the solar co-op would be a really good option for you because you get expert help from Solar United Neighbors. Mariah is the name of the person who's in charge of Sun in Columbus, and she has been a great help to me, and I think to everyone else, everyone that's signed up and everyone else that's on the team. One of the biggest benefits is you'll save a lot of money if you're getting rate on your panels. You also get to build a community of people interests as you nonprofit, meaning that the people at Sun and at Living, both of us were not looking to sell you anything, but just to help you through as much as we can and make for you. And also it's free to join, meaning if you're unsure about whether your house would be a good option for solar, or you just have more questions, you're still welcome to join and figure out more information as you go on. And this just goes into detail a little bit more about some of the benefits. So competitive pricing, how that works is the co-op solicit competitive bids from multiple installers. So you'll get a great price on a personalized solar proposal. For and acquiring solar customers is a major expense, but we're doing some of their work for them, which means that they can charge you less, and as it's a group rate, they don't less for that. So support is really helpful. If you're trying to put solar panels on your house alone, there can be a lot of difficulties with that, and trying to find someone or find an organization that can help you can be challenging. But with this solar co-op, you have all the expert help you need for free. So this is kind of the process of solar co-op. We're in the month right now, where basically people who are interested are learning about the solar co-op by going to information sessions, which I will tell you more about later. And if they think that they want to do it, they're signing up and telling their friends and their neighbors about it. So pretty soon, once the solar co-op has 30 participants, and I think we're there, but I don't think that the installers have been selected yet, but Solar United Neighbors will basically everyone who has signed up so far will choose an installer or multiple installers, and then they'll choose, they'll agree on one, but in this case, for this co-op, I think that they're leaning towards 2 or 3 installers. And then the last 4 months, it's a deadline, so no one else can join the co-op, and then you'll schedule the installer to come to your house and basically put on the solar panels, and that's the end of it. And then I'm just going to show you the website real quick. So if you want to write this down, remember it for later, it's just solarunitedneighbors.org/Columbus. Maybe, there we go. So here is where you can join the co-op if you're interested. And as you can see, there's 2 months left, so you have some time if you are interested. And then basically it just gives you some more information, the video that I showed you before, information about the pricing, and then it also tells you about Mariah, who is kind of the lead of Solar United Neighbors Columbus, has our partners on here. And then you can also go to updates. So this is when the co-op officially launched, which was on July 8th, when there was a press release. And then also these are upcoming events. So these are both information sessions. This one here on August 5th is hosted by Simply Living. So I will be there, as well as Kathy, I believe, and Mariah. And basically, you can just come to learn more about the solar co-op and see if it could be feasible for you. And then there's also another one and because there hasn't been an installer chosen yet, it's not on here, but as soon as there is, you can see who they chose on this website as well. And I'll leave this up for a minute or two because you can just use the QR code right here to sign up. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
I know Abby had said a certain area. So what is the area?
So all of Franklin County is allowed to join the co-op and also some of the surrounding counties. It depends kind of on how far away you are from Columbus, but I would say if you're within like 45 minutes to an hour or less, then you'll probably be able to join. But I would definitely, you can, if you're interested, but you don't live in Franklin County, feel free to email me and I can forward that on to Mariah and see if it would be possible for you to join. But I would think that it is.
Do they have average cost of what it costs to go solar?
Yeah.
Small house, medium house? Mhm.
So it depends less on the size of your house and more on the like amount of solar panels that you want to install. So this chart kind of shows the average costs and then also the average savings over time. So yeah, this is the smallest amount, so it's about 6,700, and then the highest amount of kilowatts is 18,000. Costs 18,000.
Anyone have questions for Abby? Like I said, you can email, you can put them in the chat, or you can ask right now.
And also our session on the 5th is online, and it's at noon. So if you think of any questions later week, feel free to come to the information session and you can ask them there too.
There is a question in the chat, Abby, from Sheila Fox. She wants to know any information on batteries.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but I can give you Mariah's email if you would be interested in asking her. It might depend on the installers too, which they haven't selected yet, but I am going to drop Mariah's email in the chat and she will definitely be able to answer your question.
Thanks.
So you'll drop that in the chat, and Kathy has also put in the chat to the link to sign up if you're interested in more information for the August 5th information session.
Yes, thank you, Kathy.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Abby. Has this been a learning experience for you?
Yes, it has. Yeah, I've gotten to work with a lot of different people and like city council members and just people from all different types of organizations. So it's been really interesting doing that and also kind of just learning how something like this works and what the planning process is has been really great.
Great. You may have something to teach your professors when you go back.
Hopefully. Thank you, everyone.
They may use you as a resource.
True.
Okay, you've got Mariah's address in there now. Okay, thank you. Well, next we're going to go on to Fiona. And Fiona is going to talk to us about fast fashion, which is what she's been working on this summer.
All right, let me just figure out how to present this to you guys.
Sure.
All right, how does this look?
That looks great. If you want to introduce yourself.
Perfect. All right, I am Fiona Sullivan, and I'm a senior at Bexley High School. I've been doing this internship with Simply Living since the beginning of the summer. And I've been focusing most of my research on sustainable fashion. So fashion has always been a pretty large part of my identity. However, I purchased all of my clothes retail until a few years ago. My parents had a budget of like $400 a month for clothing. So today I'm going to share some of my research on fast fashion and offer some alternatives to shopping retail if you're interested in making the switch. All right, so here's what I'm going to be talking about today. So the first question is just, what is fast fashion? So fast fashion can be defined as cheap, trendy clothing that samples ideas from celebrity culture. The clothes are then quickly designed and recreated and then expedited to stores. This has become a larger issue in the past 20 years because clothing has gotten cheaper and trend cycles have sped up. This basically means that certain garments used to be in style for years at a time, and now most clothing only lasts one season. They're bought at peak popularity and then discarded after a few wears. So what are the dangers of fast fashion? So this toxic cycle encourages overproduction and overconsumption, making the fashion world one of the biggest polluters. You might know of Shein, which is one of the biggest offenders of fast fashion. Thrift stores are already overflowing with Shein tagged items because the website makes it so easy to spend hundreds on dozens of items that only cost a few dollars each. By searching Shein haul on social media, you can see that people might spend $800 at a time on items that'll not get worn. It might feel like you're getting a deal, but after a few wears, most items will either fall apart or be donated. So really, it's a waste of money. So Shein has been under fire for stealing designs in the past. Fast fashion companies like Shein and many others steal designs from small independent artists, including Black-owned brands that get none of the credit or profit. They sell it for much less and make it the more convenient option rather than paying the designer for their hard work. So overcrowding in thrift stores is also a really big problem. Despite being a relatively new fad reaching peak popularity in the last few years, Shein has been flooding thrift stores. This means that for whatever reason, maybe because of the low quality of their items or the micro trends passing, people don't wear their fast fashion clothing for very long. And how do you recognize a fast fashion brand? So there are a couple telltale signs of a fast fashion brand. So the first question you want to ask yourself is the price too good to be true? So most of the time, if the price is low, then they aren't paying workers in a fair way, which means the items are most likely mass produced in a factory using cheap labor. Another question to ask yourself is, what fabric is the item made from? If it's made from cheap, low quality materials like polyester, viscose, or rayon, it's probably fast fashion. Ideally, you want to look for natural materials like organic cotton and wool. Does this brand release new items frequently? Fast fashion brands must stay on top of the latest trends. If brands are constantly releasing new collections and collaborations, then it's probably fast fashion. So this chart compares Shein's yearly production with several other fast fashion brands. So you can see that when you compare Shein to H&M here, there's so many styles that Shein produces every year. So Zara is another big name. It only adds about 7,000 a year. Boohoo adds 18,000. And then you have Shein, which is responsible for 315,000 new styles every year. And that's more than the number of people that live in the city of Cincinnati. So don't get me wrong, Shein is not the only brand that profits off of fast fashion. Nike is fast fashion too. But when you're monitoring your consumption of fast fashion, it's important to remember that frequency matters. For a lot of people, it's unrealistic to completely eliminate fast fashion. But keep in mind that you only buy a pair of Nike shoes maybe once a year. You can limit your consumption of fast fashion by avoiding brands like Shein that encourage you to consume a lot of clothes and buy into trends. So what can you do? So I believe that change starts at an individual level. These companies won't change their practices unless their buyers force them to. Shein wouldn't be adding 315,000 new styles every year if there weren't people waiting to buy them. There are many alternatives to buying retail, and there's one for everyone, whatever your preferences might be. So everybody knows about good old-fashioned thrifting. And although it's time consuming, you can comb through racks of clothing and usually find a pretty good deal. But did you know that 80% of clothing in a thrift store gets taken to the landfill? So there's plenty of clothing to go around. One unwritten rule of thrifting is to not buy winter coats because someone might need one when it gets cold out. And you should also redonate whatever clothes you don't wear. If you take, you should give back. You might wonder where the clothes go if they don't sell at Goodwill. They actually go to a Goodwill outlet store, which is effectively a garment's last stop. That is my personal favorite method of thrifting. You look through bins of clothing of all ages and genders, and they get changed out every 15 to 20 minutes. You can look through bins of clothing, that's actually what's this picture on the screen right here. You can see the bins. And you can find anything from designer to vintage to the latest trends. And these clothes will be donated to a landfill or incinerated if they're not sold. It's a wonderful way to get inexpensive and nice clothing. However, if the prospect of sorting through a conglomerate of used clothes without any knowledge of where they might have been disgusts you, there are plenty of alternatives. So next we have online thrift. So online thrift stores include Depop, Poshmark, Curtsy, and ThredUp. For people who don't have the time to look through rack after rack of clothes or are searching for something specific that your local thrift store doesn't have, online shops might be the way to go. They have a lot of variety. Some people can sell vintage, some people sell old clothes that they don't wear or don't fit anymore. And you might not be able to get quite a deal like the ones at the thrift stores, especially after tax and shipping, but curated thrift stores do come at a cost. Next, we have consignment shops, which take gently worn clothing, usually from popular brands or clothing that's still trendy, and they pay a little bit of money to take it off your hands. Then they mark up the price a little bit and they organize it by a type or a brand. If you struggle to find your favorite brands in thrift stores, you can usually find sections that are labeled more specifically in consignment shops. So next we have discount and overstock stores. This is made up of stores like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Ross. These stores give generous discounts on clothes that may have been overstocked. Once the discount store buys them, it's their responsibility to get rid of them. They may move the product around or to different stores or the sales section, but usually they get donated to the thrift stores if they're not purchased. So for anybody who prefers to buy their clothing new with tags, this is your best and most sustainable alternative. You can save clothes from overcrowding a thrift store, but also get them at a steep discount. So there are plenty of alternatives to buying clothing retail. At the end of the day, the most sustainable thing you can do is keep wearing the clothing you already have. Most brands today are a form of fast fashion, so it's a great idea to avoid buying retail at all. But that doesn't mean you have to compromise your style, and you can still participate in trends. Thank you for listening to me today. Hopefully some people will go home and decide to stop supporting fast fashion entirely. That's what I'm doing. Or maybe just be more aware of how much you consume. So if there's any questions, I can take those now.
Thank you, Fiona. And there is a question in the chat. What are some of your favorite spots to go thrifting? I'm from Westerville and have never found any traditional, in quotes, thrift stores with the bins.
So the bins is something that is unique to the Goodwill outlet stores. So there's Goodwill retail stores, which are very common. And then as far as I know, there's only one outlet in Columbus, and that's on Bryce Road.
Lynn, was you wanting to say something?
There is more than one. I've noticed them that they happen to be on their 270, on the 270 belt out that way. But it's for someone who is in thrifting and someone who resells their products, that was a big wow. I've never seen that kind of an operation. Your picture had all clothing, but really they have books and everything. It gets weighed by the pound. Books are one price, clothes another price, and then other. Oh yeah, it's kind of, for one who's also trying to downsize, it was kind of a weird experience. The sound of everything going into the bin.
Oh, it's really loud, yeah. Yeah, so I was just reading this comment here, and yeah, that would be a great goal to get this into high schools, because I know a lot of my classmates support fast fashion, particularly brands like Shein that really promote the overconsumption. So I will try to pass it on, like through my environmental club this year, but
And for those of you that didn't know, Fiona's reading the comment in the chat that says, "This was great. My nieces were just here from Colorado, and that was all they wanted to do was go thrifting. I wonder how to get this info to more high schools." So it makes me wonder, Fiona, what got you started down this path?
Growing up, my mom, the only thing she could afford was thrifting. And so that was something that, like, she took us thrifting when I was young. And at first it was a bit of a learning curve. I was like, oh, I don't want to go here. This is gross. This is dirty, you know. And over time, I guess I just started to learn that that there were some great things in thrift stores. So a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, is when I started really getting into it and buying a lot more things from there. And now that's pretty much where I shop. I only shop in thrift stores or online thrift stores now.
And when did you make the connection with thrifting and the environment?
That's a good question. I guess I joined the environmental club at my school, and somebody showed us a video on how jeans like are sandblasted or something, and it's horrible for the environment. So certain practices that happen at a retail level are just not good. And that's when I realized that if I want to buy something or something like fur, you know, that's terrible to buy brand new. But if you get it from a thrift store, you know, it's already made. So it's a great alternative.
And I think you touched on this, but I think the low wages and even human trafficking has been found to exist in this fast fashion world to make it really, yeah. So excellent, thank you. Any other questions for Fiona? Okay, then we'll move on to, it will be Abby again, and she'll be joined by Sophia, and they're going to talk about environmental justice.
Cool. I'm gonna leave my camera off during this just because my Wi-Fi has been a little bit spotty. But I will let Sophia introduce herself real quick before we start.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Sophia Rosado. I am an undergraduate student at Ohio State, and I'm studying environment, economy, development, sustainability, with a specialization in community development. So, environmental justice has always been a huge passion of mine, which is why I'm very excited to talk about this. And the environment in general has also been a passion of mine. So, yes, I'm ready whenever you are, Abby.
Cool. Okay. One second. Okay. So today we're going to talk about environmental justice, some definitions, examples, and also what we can do as a community. So I'm going to show another short video once again that'll just kind of go over the definition of what environmental justice is.
Okay, so this is a city. Here are all the people living in it, people of all different colors, ages, wealths, and incomes. Except they don't all live together in the same place. They're separated into different parts of the city by what color they are, what language they speak, and how much money they have. And those different parts of the city look quite different. The parts that are whiter and wealthier tend to have green spaces, grocery stores with nutritious organic food, and of course the money to buy it, and are often far away from pollution-emitting freeways. The parts that are poorer and more diverse tend to have industrial sites, heavy-duty diesel-polluted ports and highways, and hazardous waste, all things that the city relies on to run properly, but that heavily pollute the air and water. And even if they had those grocery stores with nutritious organic food, most residents there couldn't afford it anyway. How did this happen? Well, this segregation can be traced back to race-based zoning and housing policies, but it wasn't always as deliberate as plain old racism. Some separations can simply be traced to poor land use planning. And as a result, these residents of the same city live very different lives. Say the city realizes it has an emissions problem. It comes up with a plan to reduce air pollution, plant more trees to suck up the carbon, or start a cap and trade program. But those trees get planted in the neighborhoods that are already green, and the factories that are spewing toxins into the air just buy more carbon offsets and keep spewing their toxins. The benefits of these programs are enjoyed by the communities that are already doing just fine, and the communities that were hurting most from all that air pollution, well, they're still hurting. This isn't just an imaginary city, this is the story of real cities all across the US where people might live in the very same area code, but their race, ethnicity, or wealth and income bracket causes them to experience wildly different quality of air, water, and life. In fact, it can even mean that they also experience different deaths. That's how serious this stuff is. This kind of inequity expands far beyond cities, too. Rural areas are...
I'm going to pause it right there, but it does go into some other details about how it kind of extends from others, from outside of cities and also from outside of just this country. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so, as we just saw, environmental justice in a nutshell is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, or income. And a few examples of this include inadequate access to healthy foods, inadequate access to transportation, of course, air and water pollution, and unsafe homes. And environmental justice also intertwines with environmental racism, which is defined as the disproportionate impact of environmental hazards on people of color. And so environmental justice is the movement's response to environmental racism. So a few goals from the Columbus Climate Action Plan include equitable distribution of benefits from climate action planning across the diverse community, public health and reduction of pollutants and hazards, preserving and improving natural ecosystems, and providing opportunities for funding revenue streams and reducing energy costs. And so a good example of how we can push for environmental justice in Columbus is by protecting the city's tree canopy, as we kind of saw in that video. The BREAD organization, which stands for Building Responsibility, Equality, and Dignity, is pushing to protect the tree canopy, as they state that many underserved neighborhoods have fewer trees than others. So the tree coverage kind of helps with air quality, lowers utility bills, and protects neighborhoods from flooding. And so far, City Council has passed a resolution supporting a new urban forestry master plan, which would increase and protect the trees in the city. So that's just one example here in Columbus.
Awesome. So if you guys remember, a few months ago now, the AEP power outages, where a big portion of Columbus residents lost their power for multiple days. And it's not proven, but a lot of people are speculating as to whether AEP chose to put those outages in neighborhoods that are lower income or more comprised of people of color and immigrants. So this is just an article, and there's a quote in this from a resident of Linden. And she said, "How did the neighborhood with the most immigrants and refugees and Black folks have no power?" she asked. So this is just one example of environmental injustice in Columbus. And as climate change worsens, these occurrences are going to become more common. It's more likely that we'll lose power, especially if there's no new infrastructure put in, or if the power lines aren't put underground. So as this happens, if there's no inclusion of environmental justice, then these lower income and immigrant communities are going to be hit harder and harder over and over again. And these are just a few local organizations who are doing a lot of good work related to environmental justice. The first is the Sunrise Movement Columbus, and they are a primarily youth-led organization, and they do grassroots efforts to push for environmental justice within policy, but they're also involved in a lot of mutual aid just to their communities and neighbors. There's also the BREAD organization, which Sophia mentioned before. They write a lot of good articles related to environmental justice in Columbus, and they are focused on creating more awareness within the city. And then just a few others, us. We always strive for sustainability, and environmental justice is a big part of sustainability, both environmentally and socially. And then we also have the NAACP and Ohio Youth for Climate Justice, which is another youth-led organization.
So yeah, some things we can do. We can educate yourselves, and share with others, teach people about environmental justice and just spread the word about it. Donate to different organizations in support of environmental justice. Volunteer at those organizations, volunteer with Simply Living, with anyone you can. And of course, write to your representatives is a big one as well. So. Any questions? Yeah, let us know.
Any questions from the group? I'll just share a little bit that Becky, I believe she's still on here, and the city is getting ready to do an urban heat study. So Becky and I are volunteering, and we've taken our training and passed our test and got our map the other day, and the sensors have been mailed and they coordinate with the weather, but we will be going out and for the city as volunteers with spatial equipment. And it'll be groups all over the city. We have our route assigned, but it will be checking the temperature at various times during the day along the same route. We'll also be checking the air quality. We'll have a monitor for that too. So the city is involved in researching and finding out what areas of the town. And we are suspecting, of course, the poorer neighborhoods with the less tree canopy is where we're going to see the higher temperatures.
Rita, it's Becky here. I just posted something about the power outage situation that had happened because I was out of town when it happened. So I was curious if where I live was out of town, which was out of power, which is southern Clintonville. And I noticed that there was this empty space around Upper Arlington, which is where I used to live. And I thought, that is very odd. They don't seem to be out of power. They don't have any of the triangles or the marks that said they were without power. And I wondered what was going on. So I did call 4 different families that live in Upper Arlington, just curious, and they were without power. I do not know why the icons weren't showing up, but I was also wondering the same thing. And it still could have been a choice of where they put the power out. But I was at least
Okay.
happy to know that they weren't, that even though the icons didn't show up, that it didn't seem to be segregated in that sense.
My friend lives in Upper Arlington and she had electricity, but the people across the street did not. And it did come out that AEP did elect what places they turned off.
Well, and also in talking about
I don't know how they decided which areas in Upper Arlington, but I know some did not get their electric cut.
I know New Albany, some people there didn't have theirs cut, but today I drove the route that Rita and I are doing for the heat sampling. And yes, it takes you through Grandview, through this a little bit of Clintonville campus and into a tough area of Linden. And it definitely, you're gonna see a juxtaposition of wealth there, and it will be interesting to see. So glad we get to do it. But thank you for all that good information.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
There's one in the chat from Kathy, and she said, where are the hotspots for environmental injustice in Columbus? I mean, I think that there hasn't been like any studies done that kind of combine all the different factors of environmental justice. But it kind of, some of the hotspots are like directly south of 70, I would say, like neighborhoods that are directly south of the highway. And yeah, Linden, I know, is because I've read a few articles about different issues that have occurred in Linden. But other than that, I'm not sure. But if I see anything about it,
I've also, yeah, sorry. I've only been in Columbus for a few years now, so I'm not entirely sure exactly where. I'm more familiar with Dayton because that's where I'm from, and I know there's also a lot of environmental injustice in Dayton as well. But yeah, like Abby said, I'm not quite sure exactly within Columbus, but definitely the city, I believe, most, yeah.
Someone put in the chat, I have a friend that lives in the bottoms, South Franklinton, a very poor neighborhood, who did not lose power. And I can say I live in Clintonville, and I did lose power and lost food. It was but I've lived in places that regularly lose power, and they did not do it the right way. You rotate. Typically you rotate 2 or 3. When you've got to do a power outage, you rotate it through the communities and you give them a heads up so they know ahead of time, and you do it for 2 to 3 hours. So you don't, 4 hours, you've lost your refrigerated food. It's longer than that for freezer food, but it's only 4 hours for refrigerated food. And you let people know ahead of time. You also do public service announcements and education. And you start, when you know there's going to be something like this, you start telling people, there's really going to be a demand on electricity tomorrow. So don't wash your clothes unless you absolutely have to. Don't use the dryer unless you absolutely have to. Don't run the dishwasher. Turn your air conditioning up higher. And I didn't see any of that done by AEP. And I know that's standard practice where they do rolling brownouts or rolling blackouts, whatever you want to call it, in areas. So I found that very disappointing. Is there another comment in the chat? No one that I spoke to in Bexley lost power, including me, oddly enough. There were exceptions, but there could be a pattern on which cities in Columbus lost power. Yeah, definitely there are exceptions. Yeah. maybe we'll find out. I think they're supposed to be investigating it. Let's see. Yeah, AEP claims that they chose where to put the outages based on issues with the power grid. However, some people were speculating it was environmental injustice just based off what they saw and experienced. So all speculative, but interesting to think about. Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating topic. Thank you, ladies. Any other questions? Before we go on to Max, who is a fellow, and if he wants to explain the difference between a fellow and an intern, I'll let him do that. And he's not a fellow because he's the only male in our group.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Max Thiesing. I'm a rising senior at Kenyon College and am an economics major. So I'm also on the men's soccer team. So if anyone's interested in talking about soccer, send me an email. I'm always up for a conversation. So yeah, I guess a fellow, it's really just an intern. I don't know. I think the Columbus Foundation wanted to make it sound a little bit more important, but it's just an intern. But I've really enjoyed working with both Simply Living and Columbus Foundation this summer. And my project has been to help develop the Sustainable Business Directory. And I'm really interested in how our local economy coincides with sustainable living, because as an economics major, I haven't really learned much about local economies, but I've learned a lot about the global economy and different theories like that. So now I'm going to talk about what the Sustainable Business Directory is. And it's essentially a website that will help you find locally owned and sustainable businesses. The directory includes a lot of businesses and shops, including grocery stores, gift shops, bookstores, coffee roasters, bike shops, apparel stores, auto repair stores, solar installers, green realtors, and a lot more, which was already a lot that I just mentioned. But shopping locally really ensures both a healthy community and economy. So last semester, I took an elective class called Environmental Economics, which made me really understand the role that the environment plays in our community. And the main takeaway that I gained was that humans rely really heavily on natural resources. And hundreds of years ago, when the United States was first founded, land and natural resources appeared to be abundant, which really allowed for infinite growth of the economy. And in the present day, that's obviously no longer feasible. And we are overexploiting natural resources, which means our economy is no longer growing infinitely. And the unfortunate reality is that our economy is based upon infinite growth when our nation was founded. And many of the large corporations, such as Amazon, Walmart, and other big box stores are really contributing to the overexploitation of natural resources. And they're also contributing to the collapse of our local economy. So small businesses can't compete with the big box stores or massive corporations because the discounts that they put on their products, which is undercutting small businesses on price. And I'm really well aware of how convenient it is to order products from Amazon that are delivered right to your front door. Like I've done it in the past, but after working this summer, I've stopped. It's no longer feasible. So it's ultimately more sustainable to shop locally. And before I show you how to navigate the directory, I wanted to share a promising statistic that Chuck shared with me when I started my internship. And it's a 10% shift from chain to local brings $312 million into Franklin County alone and 300 plus more jobs. So I say it's promising because such a small shift in consumption has the ability to heavily influence our local economy. So yeah, without further ado, I guess I'll share the directory just to show you how it works. Okay, can you guys see that? The screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So right off the bat, this is the homepage of the directory. And there's two sides of the directory. There's the business side and then also the organization side. But I'll show you the organization side after I talk a little bit about the business side. And there's 15 broad categories within the directory. So if you click on retail, there's just hundreds of retail stores within Central Ohio. So yeah. And Ragorama's a resale clothing shop, which is what Fiona was talking about earlier. And then if you're looking for something more specific, like say you're looking for a bike, if you just research or type in bike or bikes, all the bike shops that are within Central Ohio will pop up, which is really cool. Yeah, and if you were to click on one specifically, say if you wanted to look at Johnny Vela bikes, they have, and this is for every business within the directory. So it'll show their profile or a description right here. And then it also adds their phone number, an address, a link to their website and a new tab, and then also where they are in a map. And I think something that's really cool is if you put in your current location, like I'll just say Westerville, Ohio, because that's where I live, then it gives you directions are on the website. I didn't even know this was on here until I started just like playing around with it. I didn't do any of this. This was Maida. I don't know if she's on here or not, but credit Maida, not me, for all the behind the scenes type stuff. And it also has their email on the side here. And another part of the directory is the section that is called like tags, which is like more specific, like keywords, if you wanted to search something. And within the tags is organizations that have similar objectives or missions as Simply Living. So there's 3 other organizations that have like tags, I guess, and the 3 are OFA, which is the Ohio Ecological Food and Farm Association. I think I said it right. So their tag is called OFA member, and then the other 2 are Green Energy Ohio and Green Spot. So if you type in OFA member right here, it brings up all of the OFA partnered businesses within Central Ohio, which is really cool. And if you were to type in Green Spot businesses and Green Energy Ohio members, also those businesses will pop up, which is a good feature. I think that's really important, especially for Simply Living, to maintain a good relationship with other like-minded organizations within our community, especially if we want to maintain a sustainable and healthy local economy. So yeah, now I'll show you the organization side. And Fiona helped a lot with this side of the directory, so shout out to Fiona for that. There's the organization side is less detailed when you click on specific organizations. So Drexel Theater, I've never been there, but I've heard good things. So it gives a description, their address, and then the map feature again. It just doesn't have their phone number, email, or website link, but that should be pretty easy to find. I don't know, we may add that later. They also have the tag feature here. This is a Green Spot organization. So on the organization side, there will be a lot of Green Spot organizations. So if I type in, oh no, I shouldn't have clicked on that, that's all right. Green Spot organization, all of the Green Spot organizations will pop up in here, which is cool. So I think that's everything you need to know. But if you guys have any local sustainable businesses that you would like added, you could send either myself or Fiona an email, and we can check if it's already or is not in the database. But I think this is going to be a really cool resource for our community. Thanks for listening. Does anyone have any questions?
How many's in the database?
There's 625 businesses and 130 7 organizations, I think. And hopefully I can get a couple hundred more in there before I head back to school. But
And how can everyone find this directory?
oh yeah, I should have said that. The URL is directory.simplyliving.org. So just throw directory dot in front of the already Simply Living website address. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, there's a couple of comments in there.
Oh, I can't see. Oh, let me stop sharing.
This is so great. Thanks, Max. A truly incredible resource built in a summer. Amazing work. Great resource. I will have fun exploring it.
I will add, Maida Sanchez was the one that did all of the like creation of the actual website. All I've been doing is adding businesses. So I think there's more credit due to Maida than myself, but thank you.
And it's still growing.
Yes, yes. Hopefully it'll continue to grow past this summer.
Mhm. Any other questions for Max? Okay, well then Sophia is going to talk to us about the Simply Living Garden Tour later this month.
Yeah, hi everyone again. I'm Sophia, and I'm helping out on the committee that is planning the 2022 Sustainable Living and Garden Tour, which is on the weekend of August 13th and 14th. So it's coming up. So I'll be talking a little bit about that. So Simply Living's annual tour has answers for every question you may have when it comes to being green. This year we are featuring several truly spectacular gardens. Deb Kanapke, who some of you may have heard on All Sides with Ann Fisher on WOSU. She'll be opening her 26 different garden areas. There's Jim Bruner, calls his urban farm Mezzacello, a 21st century urban Monticello. And it blends agriculture, animals, food gardens, formal gardens, ponds, and technology in 5 distinct enclosed sustainable ecosystems. You will also meet master gardeners at several community gardens and 2 urban farms this year. You can ask questions about any aspect of gardening, from seeds to harvest, raised beds, no-till plots, high tunnels, raid gardens, raising chickens in the city, which I think is really cool, and even turning your yard into a wildlife certification habitat. You will also meet Sean McKay. He's the new manager of Growing to Green programs at the Franklin Park Conservatory, including their on-site community garden. Sean will share his horticulture expertise at his home in Berwick, where you will see his wide and diverse collection of plants and herbs. Sean is also a volunteer master gardener who recently founded the Garden District Corporation, which is a collection of community and residential giving gardens with a mission to promote environmental sustainability by providing garden-based programming with an emphasis on giving back to our community. This year, we're also offering a bonus tour on Sunday at 2 p.m. at the urban farm owned by Kevin Eigel and Marcia Miller in Galloway, Ohio. Some of you may know Kevin as the former owner of Eco House Solar, where he led the installation of over 500 solar energy systems. And then Marcia is retired, but you may know that she was the co-owner of Yoga on High. And then Kevin and Marcia's tour has 3 different parts to it. So learning about the relationship between native plants, insects, and birds, permaculture and growing your own food, residential energy conservation, solar with battery backup, and electric vehicles. So it'll definitely be a very informative experience where you can learn about these incredible entrepreneurs. So this is all available on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Along with the bonus workshop in Galloway. And then you can visit as many or as few venues as you wish. And the cost is only $15, but it's $10 for members of Simply Living. And if you pay $25, and you can attend the tour and receive a full year membership at Simply Living. So we definitely hope to see you there. You can also sign up on the Simply Living website if you want to register, and you can bring your friends and family and all that. So it'll be really fun. We're all very excited for that. And you can ask Lynn and Chuck have been very involved with this as well. So they're here, I believe. So you can also ask them some questions. So that's about it.
Thank you. Did Sophia just not make everybody want to go to this garden show?
I'm very excited. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Lynn, do you have anything you want to add to about the garden show?
No, what, just one thing, it's only 10 to 3, not till 5.
Oh, 10 to 3. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And we are looking for volunteers who want to
Yes.
work the first half or the second half. And volunteers get a complimentary ticket to go to the tour. We have them in different zip codes that we've been in other times that the tour has happened. It's in the 43209, 43205, and 43203. We have and I think that COVID really meant a lot, is why a lot of these gardens, a few of them actually got started, and kind of probably the expansion of the community gardens too. So it's a diverse trip, and I think it'll be interesting to bring people to the east side because we have the new East Market here, and actually turned out to be quite a few little festivals and things going on in 03 and 05. So that'll be on your map. So in case you're wondering, driving by, wondering what those tents are about, maybe you'll want to stop. So at these a couple little free events going on around us. So no, that's, I think it's going to be exciting, and let's hope the weather is like this past weekend.
And how can they get a ticket?
Online, simplyliving.org, and just click through, a good click through. And if they want to volunteer, they can just send an email right now to hello@simplyliving.org, and then it'll get forwarded to me, and then I'll send them the link to sign up. We need them for both people to be greeters, but also like a place like Deb Kanapke, she could use some extra people to help direct people around the site. So we have a couple gardens that would like that.
And what's the
Fine.
benefit to being a volunteer? You get free admission, right?
Yeah, so just send me an email or send hello@simplyliving.org, or even myself, lynn.stan@simplyliving. Thanks. Good job, Sophia.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All of the students' email at Simply Living is in the chat. If you're feeling shy, don't hesitate to email them or put your question in the chat. We really do appreciate everybody attending today. This will be going up on the Simply Living YouTube channel. So if you want to share it with somebody, it will be available there. Any other comments, questions? We could close with a joke I read today. And I think it must have been a really old joke because it was as if President Bush was the president. But I think with the summer we've experienced and the heat wave and the fires and the flooding, I thought it was might be a good way to close today. So it says, the joke was, how does President Bush plan on fighting record high temperatures? By switching from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Corny, I know. Maybe Kathy that just got back from Germany likes that. Where they use Celsius. We may be the only place in the world that still uses Fahrenheit. So